industry, what kind of challenges you are seeing, which people are facing related to it?
Ability for people to understand what is important and what is not important itself is a fundamental problem.
Do you think we are doing more protection or more security tools towards infrastructure rather than missing something which is actual, that is data?
I would not say that it's missing. I would just say that the distribution of budgets is not rational.
So what is the one thing you think that vendors should know about the real-time security, and or maybe they are missing it out?
A lot of vendors often miss how important it is to give the customers more context on operational security.
What is the biggest myth CISOs think about the cloud?
Cloud security is not easy. It's a shared responsibility model. I mean, you're not really owning the infrastructure. There is half of the part that your CSP is doing, and then half of the part that you have to do.
How much the security stack you have is out of that? How much is actually useful?
So all the tools that we're using, all of them definitely are giving us a value add.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the GB show. Cloud security never have been that advanced, and we have seen still organizations are actually facing the problem and looking and monitoring into this. We have built so many tools for monitoring infrastructure, data security, DLP, CSPM, CNAP, many tools, but these are giving us sometimes the less clarity, too many alerts, but we are not getting the things which we are looking out for. Risk is getting passed by. So yeah, today we are not going to talk about the tools, but what we want to talk about is the how this security is actually work. Is the runtime security a myth? Is the data context is actually something which we need? Or how we are going to collaborate and make this story together so that the CISOs of today and tomorrow have the real picture of the threats which are coming from AI, which they are going to build around to, have a seamless dashboard where they know what to work on, where to put their money, and how the things should provide them the right kind of security. We have sharpest mind coming in from Upwind and Matters and a security practitioner who will give us how this security work together. Let's not waste the time, but deep dive into the discussion right with me. Welcome back to the GB show. So, gentlemen, I guess Rashid and Dhiraj, you are very much used to the Bangalore weather. So, how Gaurav, the Bangalore weather is treating you?
Well, actually, I love the weather here. It's similar to what I used to in the area. And in this 5 day small journey, I've been to Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore. So from weather-wise, Bangalore.
Okay, great. So I guess you both are gonna be very happy after hearing this, right? So okay, so before even I deep dive into the discussion today, right? So I will like you guys to introduce yourself, and for my audience, who probably there are a few people if they don't know you already, right? How you would like to define yourself? So Gaurav, I will start with you.
So, hi everyone. I'm Gaurav Nagar. Little bit of background. I'm born and brought up in India. Moved to US to do my masters, and since then I've worked for a bunch of cybersecurity companies, like doing cybersecurity for Ernst& Young, Uber, Apple, Bill.com, and most recently Upwind Security. Uh, would I define myself as I'm a passionate cybersecurity. I dream, breathe, and live security. And recently I've published a book called Cyber Kill Chain, Tactics and Strategies. So even I write cybersecurity now.
Wow. Okay, so you're breathing, you're eating, you're writing, everything is cybersecurity. So Dheeraj, what about you? You are
Yeah, I think so. I'm Dhiraj. I'm one of the guy who would want to explain myself as somebody who's right at the intersection of the tech guys and the guy who sell. Okay, and the guy who understand the product. So right now I'm with Matters.AI. I'm with one of the revenue officers and responsible for building the growth and revenue function at Matters. I've been with brands like PingSafe, MongoDB, Lacework, Liferay. I would say I'm fairly new, or in the room, I'm fairly new to the cybersecurity last 5 years, but I've been a technologist from my inception. I used to love and play around with open source softwares, build my own e-commerce site for custom hardware at one point in time, build a call center, learn a lot of tech about how to build these things from the ground up, and then switched my gear in selling those techs to whosoever it matters, like.
Okay, fair enough. So tech to sales. How was the journey? Maybe I will coming like to hear, or maybe I do a separate podcast on that. That's not a topic for today, but I will like to know some insights that what all you face over there. So coming to you, Rashid. So how have been your journey and how you will define yourself?
Hey, so I'm Rashid Feroze, and I've been working in security domain for over a decade. I started my career as a security consultant, where majorly I was into offensive security. So I was working for I worked for multiple Fortune 500 companies, banks, airlines, etc. across the globe. And I've been a hacker at heart. Right? Currently, I'm leading security at Cred. It's a fintech platform based out of India. Uh, and Currently, I'm majorly into defensive security. So my role is basically intersection of security, scale, and speed, where we have to move fast as a business, but we also have to ensure that we are holding security and compliance at a very high bar.
Wow. Okay. So thanks for introducing yourself. And as I just introduced that the topic of this episode is securing what actually matters. So what matters for you, Rashid?
So, of course, for us, currently it would be securing our customer sensitive data, right? Customers have placed a lot of trust in us, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we uphold that trust, right? And the way we uphold our trust is to ensure that we do all it takes to secure the data, right? And ensure that we are enabling the business securely as well, along with any compliance barriers that might come.
Okay, enabling the secure business and trust and sensitive data, which we are talking about. So that is something which matters for you. And are you doing something which matters to him or to the other CISOs? So what is matter for you?
So security wise, I think the most important thing is, of course, securing customer data, but at the same time, you want to ensure that there are no roadblocks for the business to operate and scale. At the same time, thinking about resiliency is also a big deal. That if something goes down, how can the teams come back and make sure that the business continues to evolve? So those are the key things, and it's pretty universal for all the cybersecurity organizations.
And Dhiraj, for you, what matters?
matters?
So, about 18 months ago, I was just reading this book by Simon Sinek, or Start with Why, and I've been constantly questioning every single tech that enterprises today use. I have asked this question 5 times in a row, and the final answer came towards, especially in the cybersecurity domain, is that we are doing all of this to protect our data. And that gave me an interesting insight that, uh, if we are doing all of this to protect data, why are we not starting with data first? And I think it's exactly is something which matters to me along.
And when you talk about data, like we have to protect. So in industry, what kind of challenges you are seeing, which people are facing related to data?
Yeah, I think a ability for people to understand what is important and what is not important itself is a fundamental problem, because most organizations are built on layer of technology and layer of people, because they're not built overnight. They were built by people, and first generation, second generation, third generation. They have tech which is layered up on top of each other. And then, sometimes what happens is that the fourth generation who is actually working on the product has to deal with the data that is being generated at the time of first generation. And at times they are not able to figure out that what does it mean to protect this kind of a data. I'll give you a classic example. In the automobile industry, we talk about PII a lot, but a vehicle chassis number and engine number is not a PII until the vehicle is sold. So how data changes its form the moment it flows by the the cycle of transition or supply chain cycle. Those level of understanding and integrity is something which people are still figuring out, I would say. And it varies from industry to industry, right?
Okay, and do you think, Gaurav, it's the same challenge or you have your own?
Yeah, I think data inference is a big challenge. I think it's something with the AI has tremendously transformed. Now you might not need the data piece of the data and straightforward, but you can connect like multiple sources of data to to get the information that you will, right? So that is of course a new challenge which is emerging in the industry, and identity will be a big challenge there.
Like how will you identify which identity is responsible for getting what data and how they're therefore related it. So that's going to be a big challenge. It's not arrived yet completely. It's on the way. But we have to be, as security professionals, we have to be prepared for it. We have to be 2 steps ahead of the attackers too, because just like defenders, attackers are also using AI, and they will use inference more and more going forward.
And Rashid, as a practitioner, do you buy these challenges, or if I say what makes you awake all night, or you are a sound sleep person? Maybe.
I mean, I definitely buy these challenges. Me and Dhiraj have been working together since it's a very long time. And we have been discussing the problem statement here is which often people fail to underestimate, the problem statement of data security. When you're operating at a petabyte scale and you don't know where the sensitive data lies, it's impossible for you to protect that data, encrypt that data, or anonymize that data, right? So the key factor before you begin your data security journey or even data privacy journey, right? During data privacy, you do something called as ROPA, record of processing activities, and it is basically the same identifying where my sensitive data lies. So the key activity is here first getting a sense of where my sensitive data is. Once I have got a sense of where my sensitive data is, then I can put guardrails along it. I can mask it. I can encrypt it. Right. I can monitor it. So with whatever the tools are available in the market, if you look at it from an attacker's point of view, right? Uh, uh, the question you asked, what keeps me up at night? I would say, given our environment is very dynamic and it keeps changing because there are new deployments every week, there are identities being created, both human, not human. So it becomes very challenging to secure a constantly changing environment, right? And the biggest worry, I think, for every security practitioner would be if there is something happening within my environment which I don't have a visibility upon, right? Uh, I'll talk a bit about the recent supply chain attacks which has happened, right? A lot of those malwares were bypassed by the EDR or the antivirus solutions. So I guess everybody has a worry right now whether adversaries are using AI continuously now, more and more, and we are a bit worried as whether our defenses are able to beat the pace with the adversaries using AI.
Fair enough. And as you started, and I think the whole conversation is coming around data. So maybe Dhiraj, I would like to ask you, when the core is actually the data, right? So in India, when we go and talk about security, it's more about infrastructure security, right? So do you think we are doing more protection or more security tools towards infrastructure rather than missing something which is actual, that is data?
I would not say that it's missing. I would just say that the distribution of budgets is not rational. Again, I'll give you an example from an analogy point of view. Like if you have 1,000 guests to feed and if you have a finite budget, you would probably order a buffet which is going to feed them equally. But if you know that out of those 1,000 guests, there are 10, 15 of them which are VVIPs, then you can treat them very, very differently because the budget is going to remain finite. What is the fundamental problem? What I've seen here is that the parameter way was right until AI came in the picture. Because we play by the rule and the attackers don't play by the rule. So you would go for your finite investments, you would go for, okay, this is my budget. And every time you'll find it hard to explain to a management that why would you need more dollars for your security. But at the end of the day, it is a cost function, it is not a revenue function. So, but then for attackers, it's like a very simple game. Like they're very well funded organizations nowadays in there. With using AI, they don't need more hackers, they would need just more compute. Right. So I feel problem is not that they are doing something wrong. It's just that the pace with which they have to transition from whatever they were doing in the past versus now has to be extra fast, and the individuals are not ready for that kind of a pace. No devs.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, with all the tech coming in, the attack cycle is getting smaller, and the data is all fragmented. What is important for practitioners like us is the data lineage, where the data came from, how it gone from one place to another, and if there's a way you can map out everything, I think that's a great way for you to investigate if there is certain type of threats you're doing.
Two things which which even Rashida said, talk about Europa and then the data lineage. So what is the you think how this problem or any CISOs who are watching us, like what do you like to tell them that how this can be solved? Have you worked on this problem to solve this, or anything which exists?
So I'll just attempt that, and if you look at it historically, we are prepared for outside an attack. And I would say defense forces is the best example for us to learn from there. So whether the technology or cybersecurity, everybody is trying to follow the way earlier defenses were fought or fought on the borders, and people used to fight from it. Very similar way. Perimeter security is exactly like fighting at the border, and inside threats are something which is like fighting with the sleeper cells. Figuring out, you have a policy against putting them to jail, but provided you figure out who the sleeper cell is.
Exactly.
So to be able to figure out the inside thread, the journey starts by knowing what is sensitive, and then it goes on what activity is being performed, and then you tie that story with identity and all the malicious intent, because intent can be right throughout your tenureship in an organization, and it can just switch the gear the moment you're working under pressure, or you're working under certain set of taking timeline or ransom, or whatever could be there. Or you're simply leaving the company and you fought with the management, you want to misuse the data. So it could be anything. Figuring that intent can only happen when you talk about the intersection of identity, data, and the action around those days.
And have you figured out how to go about that intent? Because that is what Matters talks about, right? So is it just marketing, or you have something fundamentally in place to go about the intent? And if yes, how?
I mean, we spend a lot of dollars in figuring out that we don't do the first class A mistake, which is classifying the wrong data at the wrong lab. So accuracy and classification is very important for us. And then everything that we built is around the activities on that sensitive data. So to answer your question, answer yes, we are able to, but it's a continuous improvement every day. It's a cat and mouse game, so we are learning marketing. We are trying to do, but yes, we are almost there.
Okay. And Rashid, you buy that?
Yeah, definitely. I think right. Talking extended to what you already said, right? It's a cat and a mouse game currently. If you just look at what has happened in the last month or last couple of weeks, I would say the difference is phenomenal. Okay. Uh, uh, so we are practitioners, and we, from both from an offense or defense side, and we are seeing this new wave of security attacks by adversaries using AI, and the attacks are so sophisticated right now that it is mind blowing for us. Like the pace is so fast that a lot of, I think, practitioners would be unable to sleep in the last couple of weeks, and so are they. So what I think is industry is shifting from static signals to more towards a runtime context. Okay, so I need to understand the believable context as well. To give an example, talking about cloud security, if you tell me that your cloud deployments is vulnerable, right? That is a thing which has happened in the past, but currently I need to know that hey, there's something going wrong right now which I can act upon. So the whole focus is slowly shifting towards more towards runtime context rather than relying solely on static signals. So this
Fair
is
enough.
this is where we are trying to be as well.
And Gaurav, I would like to pitch you in here, like when he's saying runtime. So is runtime is actually truth? And if yes, then why most of the tools are static?
Yeah, I think just like tech is evolving, the security space is also evolving, and now we are realizing that runtime is the is something that's gonna tell us like what's happening in the moment. And I'll tell you why it's important, right? I've been a practitioner all my life. I've responded to all sort of attacks possibly, uh, APTs to small attacks too. One thing that has changed that hasn't changed is the speed. You have to respond in a speed. If you give attackers time, they're going to cause you more damage. And as a practitioner, what's important for us is that if there's an attack, how fast we can know about it and how fast we can respond to it, right? So runtime is now a technology that has come up which can give us those capabilities. Now, for example, recent incidents around Shahelu that happened, right? NPM got compromised. All of a sudden, everybody who's using that found out that the stuff is compromised, and attackers were even more smarter. They were not using something else. They were using basically a repository called Truffle, which is very common in the industry. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody uses it, right? But there is a delta, right? So with runtime, you can tell that, hey, this technology in this environment hasn't been used in the past. All of a sudden, it got introduced. How come, right? So that's one drift that you can detect. The second is that, okay, is it operating from the right place, or that is it getting executed from stash template? It's not supposed to be, right? So those are the signals. When you can correlate those signals, and that can only happen in runtime. Okay. And this all are scripted, and these moves fast, right? This one action happens, second action happens, third action happens. Immediately they all got all the secrets, it got compromised. It all happens within like minutes.
And how you work this technology, how this work, a basic idea on the technology wise, like, majorly we know for all the information when we are doing static scans and working on the application or something, but in runtime I will go how it works and how maybe Upwind also, helping.
Yeah. Yeah. So runtime is a straightforward technology. I think most of us have used it in the past. I'll give you an example of AV. Historically, we all have used antiviruses. We move from AV to EDR. Similar to that, on its EDR is runtime, right? There is an agent that's sitting and performing action. Similar to that, on the cloud side, that technology is coming up. Historically, there was a different tech and it has caused performance problems. But new tech which is coming up is eBPF based sensors. And what they do is they collect the data telemetry. They basically sit at the kernel level of your endpoints and collect all the system calls, send it back to the mothership. And then from there, all the logics, threat intelligence, and everything get correlated. And then you trigger alert and response process, or you can do vulnerability management and much of other things based on the similar data sets, right? So that's the difference. And the tech wasn't really there. The underlying tech wasn't really there a few years ago. So industry was relying mainly on the static things. And as tech is evolving, there are new tools coming up.
And do you think India will leapfrog directly to the runtime for security?
I 100% believe that.
Okay.
I 100% believe that because it's also a little bit credit to the attackers. They are doing a type of attacks where the response needs to be appropriate and fast. And this is a technology which is here to stay. And with all the advancements in AI, also agents, right? All the AI agents have goal-seeking behavior. So even if it's not an attacker, if it's an agent that you have built out yourself and you have given it a prompt to do something, it can go in the thing that you instructed to them in a malicious way.
Okay. And
So runtime will detect that too, right? Or stop that, or however you configured that. So it goes both ways. Attackers, but all the whole sole point is you get the visibility in the action when it's happening. And ephemeral workloads, things are changing so fast. People are moving towards containers. Data centers are still there, but people are phasing out to cloud. So with the advancement of the tech, the security needs to advance as well, right? We cannot, like, security professional cannot be left behind with the advancement in tech.
so you're getting the same vibe in the industry. It's a runtime first.
Yeah, I think because the runtime is the last mile of defense. Like I gave the example in the past, you have to protect your infrastructure by a Kokoroko. And runtime is the best way because at the end of the day, any amount of exfiltration will happen by some sort of a runtime action, right? The only point that I want to add to what Gaurav mentioned here is that if you can be smart enough about, what is most important for you at this moment. Because what happens is, no attacker will try to attack in one single kill chain. They will do recon, they will hold on to your data and then wait for years or months sometime to be able to exploit it later. So that exactly is happening right now in a quantum game also, by the way. So, people are figuring out that where all you are having RSA keys. And then once the quantum computing is live, and if you have not replaced your RSA keys by then they will wait, they will wait for that opportunity to kind of exploit you. Same thing. Now, if you know this is your sensitive data, and if you ignore a low priority alert on your sensitive data, that is the blunder people are doing. Because a low priority alert can lead to a high priority incident few years down the line because we ignored it now.
Fair enough. And there is so taking from there, like, how you see data in runtimes. We have different security tools to overprotect our data, right? So we even see most of the time DLPs are getting failed. So what are the reasons or
So I think if you have to look at it when those technology is discovered or invented, and what was the problem statement there. So what we end up doing is we are trying to retrofit an old age technology for a new age problem, and that's the problem. Uh, when DLP was designed 20 years ago, the problem statement was, can I block my pen drive access from my laptop? Because a lot of these standalone applications used to run on laptops and desktop, and the data, the final data, the dumps and everything. A classic example is Tele. All the dump used to reside inside the laptop. So if somebody can get hold of a pen drive, they can put a pen drive and they take the backup and go out. So data exfiltration was that easy, and that's when DLP was designed. When that problem shifted from laptop to email, your email DLP came in the picture. And the same problem shifted from email to cloud and SaaS. A version of CASBs came in the play. Pretty much everybody focused on blocking, and what to block came as an afterthought to them. So, and that's when, they realized that, if I put our regular expression based policy engine, my accuracy will probably hit 15 to 20% of accuracy. And that's when, so the foundation of, figuring out who's the thief itself is wrong. And then, you will have the laws and policies and courts and law enforcement, but the thief itself is wrongly cast. So I would say now, in a runtime context, if you know what is sensitive for you, do not ignore even the low and medium severity alert. Coming from somebody who has been in the cloud security world, I know people tend to incline towards fixing critical and high, but because attacks are happening in piecemeals, the recon will happen now, the attack will happen 2 years from now. You never know. So you have no scope to ignore certain alerts. That's the problem.
fair enough? And when we talk about these security tools, and maybe Rashid, I will ask you like how much the security stack you have is out of that, how much is actually useful?
Okay, so I feel every security tool implementation goes through a journey with the team, right? Immediately it would be difficult to see the ROI, but over time, as the tool matures, as your team matures, I would say it definitely starts to show value add. Okay, so all the tools that we're using, I mean, all of them definitely are giving us a value add. But I think the problem is not about usefulness. The problem here is of all the tools that you are using currently to secure an environment, can all of them, stitch a story together and bring out the larger context? This is what is missing currently, right? As security teams, we are constantly bombarded by alerts, right? We're constantly bombarded by things happening, late at night, and there are so many things to look at once, right? So what we need is we need a larger context, we need a bigger picture, so that it is easier for me to take an action, right? And that is where it takes an effort to correlate stories from different tools or platforms, and during a real world incident, right?
And do you trust the alerts coming to you?
We do, I would say. Again, as I said, right, it takes a while to attain maturity. So, talking about alerts, I don't think it's about trusting versus non-trusting. It's about how much noise you are getting of any tool, right? 'Cause it's all about signal to noise ratio. So, any monitoring tool we implement, our objective always has been to improve the signal to noise ratio, right? The higher true positives we are gonna get, the more value add it would be, right? And I see the value shift is happening in the entire industry, and people no longer want a tool which just throws alerts at you. People want a tool, which throws actionable insights along in that alert. It gives you more context on based on environmental, so that it's easier for security teams to take an action.
Fair enough. And these days we are talking a lot about CNAP kind of tools as well. So, do you think that kind of platform will help Indian ecosystem, or we are still like in the checklist security?
No, I think definitely it will help. Security is all about a layered defense, right? One tool will not stop everything. You have to still stick to the fundamentals, right? And what you're actually doing in reality is you're making it difficult and expensive for attacker to get in your environment, right? So that's with that in mind. I mean, it's always the defender has to win every day, and the attacker has to win only one time, right? So with that mindset, if you go in, then there are a lot of pieces that fit in. CNAP is definitely one of the key or top investment in my professional journey, where I have put in the money. Because the business has to work at the end of the day, and most of your production workload needs to be secured and monitored very carefully. In historically, there have been a fragmentation where DevOps teams and security teams, they both operate in isolation. I mean, security team will not really know the infrastructure. They have some understanding, but they don't have the full visibility. They might not know the network topology in the real time, right? But with CNAP and with all the telemetry coming in now, it has empowered the security teams in a way where they can truly defend the organization and probably make trade recommendations to other teams to improve their processes and the way they are building infra.
Uh, but when we talk about runtime reality, why you think many or traditional CNAP fails over there? So how you guys are doing it differently?
Yeah, I think it's a different approach. Cloud is same, data is same, right? Pretty much any tool out there will give you somewhat similar information up to a level, right? Most of the traditional vendors have approached it differently. As I said, there was a huge difference between insecurity and not knowing the infra very well, or not have the real time visibility. So back in like early like 2018, 17, 20 time, visibility was a main problem. So the approach and the tech that the teams took or the companies took at that time was mainly taking snapshots, taking out the data out and give you the full picture from there. But that was the tech of 2020, right? And it was useful back then. It was very useful because now you can see what's out there in the infra. But the problem was the tech will give you the alerts and the data in a delayed fashion. It's not instantaneous, right? I mean, if there is an attack and if you're going to know about it after 30 minutes, the attacker has already been in the environment for 30 minutes, right? So there was really like not much back then. The tech in general has evolved a lot in last 5 years, last 2 3 years really, and I think now we have the tooling capability, technology to be more advanced in terms of in terms of CNAP. So the CNAP 2.0 concept is mainly inside out approach. So
Okay.
if you really look at it, historical CNAP tools have outside-in approach, where they take the snapshot, they take out the data, they see what's going on, and they tell you, right? Inside-out approach is basically you have an agent that's sitting on your environment, almost near real time, sending you the data within microseconds, and then also enriching that data and giving you insights and correlating the different events that are happening across your industry. As Rashid said, right, there was a lot of fragmentation and it was hard to correlate, right? With CNAP 2.0, you can really correlate. You can see like, hey, this identity has touched this data source, has moved from here to here, have done this action. You can stitch all of that together with the data you're getting, and that's very powerful.
Okay.
So that's the difference that we are seeing, and infrastructure has also been changing, right? I think people are moving away from data centers, going to CSP, going to more ephemeral workloads, microservices. All the modern tech which is coming in is really embracing the runtime security. And older tech, like a big conglomerates, big companies who are also now, in a way, forced to move from traditional way to innovate more. I mean, if you're still running an older data centers, it's good to run your existing business. That will slow down the innovation. So from really tech perspective, the tech leaders are now moving now towards enabling teams to do more in terms of tech. So that's where we are right now. So I do believe
Fair
that
enough. And
it's going to change.
if I need to stitch Upwind story with Matters, Dhiraj, I would like to say that, okay, where Upwind stops and where Matter begins.
Yeah, I think it's bi-directional in a way because, like I said, you figuring out what is sensitive for you, and then also figuring out, can I take this alert seriously, right? So, for example, a CNAP tool will tell you that particular you know VM is exploitable via a particular vulnerability, and it can eventually lead to a particular bucket or a data store like RDS. But if you don't know that the data inside that bucket is sensitive or not, you will probably waste the whole day with talking to multiple teams within the organization and eventually lead to a point where you say, hey, this is just a log data. We can deprioritize and focus on something which is more critical in nature. So how do you prioritize your day without knowing what you are protecting, and hence this story has to be stitched together, because you need to know what we are protecting. And then also he made a very interesting point that runtime and resilience both are very important, because there you cannot guarantee that something wrong can never happen. But are you prepared for that? Do you have plans to uh, knowing your data is part of that plan. Like well in advance that these are the places I have my crown jewels stored. So can I put additional layer of security? Can I make it more harder for attackers to take data away from that vis-a-vis other places? So I would kind of summarize that this is both very, very interesting technologies to work together and handshake with. The only thing is, if you look at from a data point of view, data, and by definition CNAP means only cloud. But data does not only mean cloud. Data can live outside cloud also. So why it is becoming little complex to get just to get to know the data, because data is again, like I said, layered approach. You have from last 20 years you've been storing data on your NAS servers, on your SMB stores, on your physical databases, and on your SaaS platforms like O365 and G Drives and Jiras and Confluence of the world, and you have cloud as well. So how do you ensure that you are like a GPS to a data and move, as your sensitive data moves, you also keep moving along with it. So, but it is important, especially because majority of the business are cloud native, born in cloud. For them, doing a data and the cloud security story together is very important.
Very, very, because I think majorly for cloud-born companies, it make much more sense. And as you were saying, Gaurav mentioned runtime and resilience. And if I say runtime plus data context, what all is possible?
Right.
What all? What do you think when he's saying like combine? What is the visibility or thing you have in mind that okay, this will happen?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. If you So I want to add a different color to it, right? Think from attacker perspective. Attackers don't think in isolation; they think in graphs. They see like, hey, I want to go there. This is how I'm going to get into the system. This is the data I want to find out, and this is all the stuff, and then I'm going to take it out, right? So they really thinks in terms of graph, and as rightly said, CNAP is mainly cloud, and you do all sort of security within your cloud, which is your production environment, and then there's data outside cloud too. So to have like a full control and visibility and basically management of your data, and also see the lineage, right? That this is how the data came in. This is how somebody went onto the production, moved the data from cloud to an endpoint, and took the data from that particular endpoint that was compromised, right? To connect the dots, it's very important to have both technologies in place, because attacker will try to find out the easiest way to take the data out. It can be endpoint too, right? It can be any systems too, and it can be an S3 bucket too.
And do you see runtime visibility as missing today?
I see runtime security as an evolving space. I'll take an example here, right? Earlier, how we used to do SAST, okay, or SCA, I would say, is basically, let's say you're building an application, you're importing a package, right? And that package is, of course, a very reputed package, which does not have any vulnerability or an issue. But right now, what's happening is this legitimate packages are getting compromised, right? Now you can't refer to a vulnerability database or a CV system. I strongly feel that CV systems as a whole is gonna be obsolete in near future, because the pace is so fast. By the time a CV gets allotted, right, the world has moved ahead. So right now what's happening is the legitimate package gets compromised and you have imported it, and now you have malware within your workload, right? And the only way to figure it out is via having a runtime security context within your containers or within your workloads, right? So I still see there's a huge gap in terms of awareness, in terms of understanding as why do we need runtime security? Because traditionally people have relied on CSPM, traditionally people have relied on vulnerabilities, scanning solutions, right? So I strongly feel that runtime security is gonna become a default, right? If you're, especially for a cloud native company where things are moving super fast, you are running multiple container based workloads, you have to have runtime security, for else you're leaving a huge blind spot over there. So I feel it's evolving, right? It's just there, and I feel the next wave of security, implementation would be around runtime security.
And you just mentioned about some blind spots. What is the biggest one for you? Is it data movement or something else?
I would say for every org, talking from a practical lens, right? Uh, let's say you've identified the data needle in a haystack as where most sensitive data lies, but everybody knows the sensitive data will not stay at one place. It moves within your own infrastructure, right? Let's say your primary source of sensitive data is your databases, then it might move to S3 depending on the business use case. It might move to data warehouse, right? There's a lot of things which are interconnected. So, of course, it's a hard problem to solve where you need to understand how the sensitive data is moving across different layers in my infrastructure and what can I do to protect it.
Okay. And because you are facing those real time challenges, right? So you have two people sitting in front of you. So what is the one thing you think that vendors should know about the real time security, and or maybe they are missing it out?
Okay. So, we have worked with so many vendors across the industry, right? Talked to so many people. And so what I have realized over time is, during my journey of security is a lot of vendors often miss how important it is to give the customers uh, uh, more context on operational security, right? For example, as if you're building a DSPM, if you're building a runtime security solution, right? I just don't need 100 alerts, right? 100 alerts every week. I need context around it. Hey, this is something that you really need to fix, right? This is something that is gonna impact your infrastructure in this way. So what I'm trying to say is when a real world incident occurs or anything of that sort happens, we don't want to look at 100 signals. We want vendors to tell us the story. Hey, this is what you need to do. Top say things you need to do. Right. So giving us more context, telling us what alerts should we prioritize, telling us, hey, how can you recover from this or how can you remediate this in a single workflow. That is where the value lies, and that is what's going to differentiate.
Fair enough. And I think I'll just take a step back. Would you like to take this and answer how this is gonna help?
I'll give a shot for this because this is a very interesting, ideas brew, and when you talk to, smart people. And I just see there is a need. Industry also have to upgrade themselves. A lot of the SaaS applications are bespoke, built by, mom and pop shops for, solving small niche use cases. They're not designed for global integrations, unfortunately. So that there are a lot of supply chain attacks, or especially in context of data, like how your data is following, and going to your sub processes and processes and all of those things. Sometimes the other technology which we are consuming, they're great technology, they're great product, but they're not designed from a security first lens. So they're not designed to how do they share, create compartmentalization of the data, and then they share the data to for somebody to scan and ensure that we have this whole universe of data in one place for a particular organization. That as a whole overall industry has to kind of like the way when docx and and odt has problems, then you have kind of created open document format which kind of everybody support. There is some amount of data interoperability that doesn't happen or need to happen in the cybersecurity space, because a lot of these software products or cybersecurity products are giving overlapping alerts. Exactly. And how do you ensure his point? It was very valid because there are alerts which you will find in the tool one and the tool two, and those alerts are overlapping in nature. How do you ensure that he, as a customer, does not have to worry about those overlapping alerts? You just have to focus on the top 10 things across the environment in a day. And that's a very big problem to solve, actually.
And I want to add, like, that's like a CISO's dream, right? CISO's dashboard. You want to get up in the morning or see these are my type problems. And this vision has always been there. I would say even 15 years back when I was talking to a CISO, he'll say, I want to do this, right? But they were trying to do it different way. They're trying to get all the data into the SIP. They still do. Different sources. Correlation was hard. Operational cost was very heavy. Tech was not evolved. But the intent was the same, right? And nobody wants to work on false positives. People get fatigued by alert. And when there is a right alert comes in, which was really malicious, because of that fatigue, they think that this is a false positive, and that's how most of the attacks get missed. What I believe is that in 2026, with all the security tooling we have, if an attacker is trying to get into your environment, there will be some informational or low or medium alert that they might have generated. It's just a matter of the time that you have not looked into it. And the reason why you have not looked into it because of the fragmentation. There's not enough context that the tool can bring it together to show you that, right? So having a tool that can do code to cloud in a single pane of glass, collect all the telemetry, and stitch it together in a smarter way can reduce those number of alerts, and will be able to bubble up the important thing that he needs to take care of.
Fair enough, and I think we are aligned here. But like how I asked him, so I would like to ask you as well. Like, what is the biggest myth CISOs think about the cloud security?
I mean, it's not a myth. It's the cloud security is not easy. It's hard. It's a shared responsibility model, right? I mean, you're not really owning the infrastructure. There is half of the part that your CSP is doing, and then half of the part that you have to do it. And plus, you also have to manage compliance along with that. You also have to work with infrastructure teams. So there are a lot of moving pieces. The first step, of course, is to actually see what's out there, how your infra looks like, what are the applications trying to achieve. Second thing is the data stores, like what data is in your environment, where how the data is flowing from the source to the destination, right? How the data is getting generated. So that is another important part. So and then how attacker will try to get into that attack. What are the identities that are involved? Is your infra used in a secure fashion or not? So a lot of different moving pieces. So bringing all of them together in a visual way is, I think, something that people will do.
Okay, fair enough. And do you say that for both Indian and US market, or you see there is a different because you are here, you are our guest, right? So maybe I will like to know something what is happening there and how you presume the market here.
Yeah, I think the digital intelligence market is pretty much same. One thing I can say is the Indian practitioners are tough. They're very technical in nature generally. They will go nitty gritty. I try to understand the entire architecture, and then they will make a decision. US practitioners are kind of a little more balanced, right? They look at the business and tech both side of things. So yeah, I think the industry is evolving. The bigger organizations in India are now going towards a digital transformation. That's a difference. While in US, you'll see that a lot of older organizations have already started the journey, and they are kind of in mid journey or coming towards completion. But that's the trend that we're seeing in India now.
Fair enough. And there you have been part of this ecosystem for a long time, and you understand this well. And you are one of the pioneer, I must say, and many good client base. The kind of relationships you have with CISOs, and what is the one advice you would like to give this gentleman when he's coming from US, or how you think that together you can make a good story?
One advice, somebody who knows everything. I don't know. I mean, I would say choose your battle smartly, because what happens is cybersecurity as an industry is very complicated, and if you do one thing, people would expect you to do 10 related things, and then if you do those 10 things, people would expect you to another 10 related things from there. So where do you have to put a full stop? Because it's like asking an unlimited context window question to any of the modern day, AI systems, right? Cybersecurity is that, sometimes you are in a business of uh, you know doing financial transactions, or you're in business of e-commerce, your margins are thin, you cannot protect at unlimited budgets, right? And that's something, so we need to understand that cycle first, and then agree to what is manageable versus what not manageable. And that's the reason why resilience is also important.
Yeah,
Protecting is important, but then if you can't put unlimited budget only on protecting and not focus on resilience, and hence striking the balance. So my advice would be like, choosing the battle smartly is
fair enough. And I'll just like to move a bit context into the storytelling now. And I will like to know from your experiences, maybe like Dhiraj, I will like to start with you. What is the most bizarre data, exploitation you have seen, or any hack which you have seen which could have been?
So there are two interesting things. One is during my POCs, not bizarre, I would say it is very common.
Okay.
One is like finding out C-level executives offer letter being shared publicly on a SaaS platform. Uh, no wrong intention, but it is basically a third party hiring agency working on a shared drive, and the shared drive was made public. Those are the kind of discoveries which was shocking because uh, y- you know it is something which is ignored. It is not part of the regular IT infra, and it was ignored. There has been incident where I found employees leaving organization 6 months ago, and yet the document that they've created are continuously running a cron job and sending data on a Telegram channel.
Wow.
Right.
So
So these are like some of the ways people are exploiting. But then when I went to some of the hacker events and way, I figured out the way they do, prompt injections on Go pilots, the way they do, like it is insane. Every day they're trying to break context window and then try to run system commands, and there is no observability written for like half of the organization, more than half, I would say. Those who are using co-pilots and equivalent of AI systems in this organization, they have literally zero context of how their sensitive data is being fed to their internal pilots, and can that be break?
are you facing the same challenge, or and anything you're doing about it?
I guess so. I mean, the challenges are the same, but I would want to add on what Dhiraj has specifically said, right? We have been talking about runtime and data, but I'll touch a very interesting topic as well, right? I'll be talking about a bit about identity as well. Uh, so uh, I'll give you a very interesting start. As per all the cybersecurity reports, 70% of cloud native companies are getting breached because of stolen identity, right? Either it was placed accidentally or it was stolen. Right? Another interesting insight I would want to give here is, let's say as an employee of an organization, you accidentally commit your cloud key or let's say GitHub key or any kind of secret key onto a public repo, right? The moment you commit it, it takes only 8 minutes from that time period for an attacker to get it and start enumerating your environment, right? So I strongly suggest to all the CISOs and practitioners to focus, have a very strong focus on having a very strong security program around identities, both human and non-human identities. It has been a biggest pain for a lot of companies, and make sure that best practices are baked in from day one rather than waiting for day 100 to set in and then you will start a identity security program. So runtime, of course, helps that because runtime has a context of identities as well. Right. So I think this is something which has been very scary, but for a lot of people, a lot of companies, right?
Fair enough. And when you actually build 7 8 years back, and today when you see things are totally different, and let's say just a scenario that everything breaks tomorrow, what are the three things you will build first?
Okay, and very interesting question. What are the three things you would do, right? If everything's back. Again, as I said, the first thing I would do is set up proper identity system and both security and system for both human and non-human identities. Unless and until your identities are protected, it's gonna be very very hard time for you. Okay. Second is having an understanding of where my sensitive data lies. Okay. Unless and until you have that understanding, you won't be able to strategize a security program effectively. Right. And again, third is in the current scenario, runtime context is very, very important. So move to runtime context. When I say runtime context, I'm talking about endpoints as well. We have EDRs, right, which work really well. And then I'm also talking about your cloud-based workloads, be it containerized workloads, be it Kubernetes, be it ECS, Packet, whatever, right? So having visibility from a runtime context is very important. So I think I will do these three things, right? Which will give me the highest ROI as per current scenario.
I just want to add what he just said. He actually summarized the unified agentic defense platform, which is the right intersection of data security, identity, and runtime.
Exactly.
And just want to add one more thing. When you really want to, when you want to build a security program, you want to see what are at the stakes. If somebody has to get into your environment, what are they going to get out of it, right? And then that is one aspect. Like data is a definitely important part, but then are you a part of critical infrastructure? That changes dynamics. You have to constantly look for like what are the types of groups that are going to target you, that can target you, and if they target you, how much or what damage they can cause you. So it's a little more strategic view, and then you start looking into the things from technical perspective.
Okay, I think amazingly said, Gaurav. So, as I ask him what are the three things he will build, I will like to ask you in Indian security stack when we see what are the few things you think we can remove or you like to remove?
Yeah, I think I will not just focus on India, but globally, I think the one thing that needs to be changed is security education. That's number one. We don't want to do it once a year, that people go through, skip, and move forward. We actually want to train them on the daily basis, making people more aware, telling them like what are the threats they are dealing with. At the end of the day, a little controversial view, but people are the weakling in the entire system. You can put the best tools in the industry, but if somebody decides to give the credentials and MFA to an attacker, you're almost done, right? Security teams can't do much after that. So that is one thing. So awareness needs to happen
So,
like
so
all the time.
here I would like to say I want to give a disclaimer that Gaurav was not paid to say this. You can get in touch with us because that is what we do. That's our bread and butter. But yeah, thanks, Gaurav.
But that's the truth, right? I mean,
Yeah.
most of a lot of breaches that we see on the daily basis are where there is this kind of challenge. The second area is I don't want to remove it, but then I think at the end of the day, we have to use much better tech in the security operation centers. The super manual, and it gets boring over the time. I mean, people doing same alerts again and again. It's not really the best use of their time. Security professionals are extremely smart. I think they know they can connect the dots, they can investigate, they can write detection, and those are not easy things to do. Those are very hard problems to solve. Probably use more of their brain capacity and experience in more smarter and more challenging way. That will be the second one. And the third one is again controversial, but I mean, a lot of compliance needs to be more advanced. We have to move away from checkbox security. We have to do the things that really matters, and also truly improve the security posture of the industry. That will not only help the organization but also help security professionals in general.
Okay. And do you align with this or you want to add something?
No, it's funny that he said that because I received a TPRM document from a customer or prospect rather, which is hardcore manufacturing base, and there was a question that is your storerooms properly guarded, and things like that. I mean, I'm in a completely deep tech business which is in the SaaS model, and we are a modern day company. We hardly have any storerooms or server rooms because we are on cloud.
Yeah.
So I think those, and this is the common problem with compliances as well, right? When those rules were written, some of those rules are still valid. They keep on adding new things, but some of the old things may or may not be relevant in today's business. So I think it is a good time for us to relook that.
Yeah, I think I one of the vendor, I have the same question that tell us that how your UPS has been stored. I said, no, we don't have one, guys. But we have laptops which has backups and everything is on cloud, right? So why I need to have UPS? Then said no.
The other point I want to also add is develop. We always keep saying that security guys has to be developer so that they can understand how developers think. But we have never emphasized enough on the other side of the story. Now, we have seen some of the greatest developers who are actually holding the keys to the kingdom, but does not understand or understand the way security runs, right? So it is nice to also train those set of people to be actually build, because at the end of the day our job is to make world safer place as security professionals, right? How we don't exist otherwise, right? So and the large portion of our destiny is controlled by the dev audience or dev people, so they need to know what kind of attacks, sophisticated attacks can happen by their mistakes, and everybody else has to suffer. So I think that's another point I want to say.
And with that, maybe before I come to you, you were talking about security and developer point, and one thing while you were talking about AI and stuff as well, I missed asking you, about the AI security engineer, right? So when we say an engineer, he's a developer, then we have security, and then he is aware about AI, and combining these words, how that practice is happening, and I think you are leveraging some resources who are in that particular domain as well.
So like Rashid mentioned that there are too many alerts. There's too many things that you want to ask and do every day. Uh, every single security leader that I meet, they end up saying that don't give me another tool. Give me my companion. Give me an engineer, or I have shortcoming of I want to hire an engineer, not able to find the right resource. So when they started asking this, give me an engineer that can act like an engineer and think like an engineer, we thought, okay, why not make a AI security engineer who has all the context of your data and something as like, because what happens is I have seen how CIOs and CISOs have faced questions in the board meeting when somebody says, show me where all do you have credit card information in that entire info. And board says it's the simplest question, it's the most dumbest question. Why can't you tell me? But then reality is that the data can be an endpoint cloud size in petabytes of. So somebody who has not combed everything will not be able to answer that confidently on those board meetings, right? So we thought of building that one engineer, the way you talk to your next door neighbor or next door engineer, dude, can you tell me where exactly is my PAN card or social security stored? And you get those answers in seconds. That is the whole philosophy.
And for the people who are watching it and they want to go in this role, so how you're orchestrating this? Like, someone who knows security, you are making them engineer and like, making them learn AI, or someone who is engineer, knows AI, and you are putting a security layer on that.
Bit of both, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, so we need engineers who understand how to make AI work and give that context to AI. A lot of that we are doing every day in day to day is our hardcore engineering problem, because scanning petabytes of data at machine speed and to be able to classify accurately is foundation to everything that we do from there on, right? So that is an engineering problem, hardcore engineering problem. But then building an AI agent to be able to answer your questions and the same speed is a security problem. So we are kind of intersection of both.
Okay. And fair enough. I will go back to the previous question, Rashid, for you. Like those three things which you think should be removed. So, are you aligned with these two being a practitioner, or you think no, we not need those things, but something else you would like to?
Uh, Talking specifically about removing, uh, I don't think anything comes on the top of my head because everything has a relevance. Okay. But as what Gaurav was referring to, uh, I'll talk a bit about compliance as well, right? Uh, Before I take a stab at it, I mean, I would want to say that all the regulators across the globe and the institutions who are building compliances have done a phenomenal job, right? In terms of be it look at DPDPA or be it how international compliances have been defined, right? So they have paved a way in the industry, right? So that because that's the reason all of us exist, isn't it, right? And on the other hand, uh, I strongly also feel that compliance standards across the globe needs to redefine, okay, and needs to adapt as well to the latest industry trends. Okay, again for them as well, it's a cat and a mouse game. It's not possible for them to immediately update the standards when the world is changing so fast, right? Again, to give an example, all of the compliance standards say, hey, do a network segmentation, protect your network boundary. But the reality is for cloud native companies, network is not the perimeter. Identity is your perimeter, right? And not enough focus is given on identity, especially around how you store and use leverage your access keys or secret keys, right? So a lot of such pointers are there, I guess, where compliance need to catch up a bit. Okay. But on the other hand, we also need to empathize here because compliance standards are set for a very broader kind of companies. They can't be very specific to, a certain set of industry, a certain set of companies. So within that broader horizon, they need to encompass, the latest threats that people are facing, especially in the cloud native companies. I feel, a revision is needed globally. And I feel slowly catching up. Okay. I've seen the revisions happening across time period. And I strongly feel that, over time, it will definitely catch up. Okay. But yeah, the pace needs to be fast.
Fair enough. And coming to the part of the story which you have built, like, if I say that Upwind is telling you what is in runtime and matters tell me about what is happening to the data. Is it a complete picture?
Well, to be honest, it's a part of the complete picture. It's not a complete picture. You still have to follow the fundamentals of security. You still have to purchase other tools that you need for compliance work. A lot of other areas of security. Security is huge. Threat modeling needs to happen. There's so much things from code to cloud that needs to happen. But a big part of your security stack can be covered with the modern tooling like Matters and Upwind today.
And what is your take on that, Dhiraj?
I think, yeah, you would need basic hygiene to be covered. What we focus largely in, can we reduce signal to noise ratio? Every single new age technology that you implement, your focus revolves around that. I'm reducing the false positives. I'm reducing the the non-actionable to from the actionables. I think that's that's the attempt every other security company is doing these days.
And Rashid, after hearing this context, how you will leverage? Do you see a value of combining runtime signal with the data context?
I think absolutely and definitely, I see a huge value add. We have established the fact here that runtime security is important because it tells you, hey, this is something which is happening, there's something wrong in the environment right now, which you need to take care of, right? Now, again, coming back to the point as we discussed, there could be in a large scale, complex distributed systems environment, there could be hundreds of such malicious activity happening around. And if runtime security gives me 100 alerts, let's say, per day, okay, for a very large scale organization, I also need to prioritize the risk, right? And the way I can do that is whether that alert or wherever the workload is basically touching my sensitive data or not, right? If it is touching my sensitive data, that becomes instantly critical to me. I need to act upon it immediately rather than waiting it out. So, of course, if you look at in practice, both data security and runtime security, I think complements each other perfectly. And it's a huge value add for us practitioners.
Fair enough. And you're getting a kind of potential buyer if you get the same pitch, but then every CISO is not thinks on the same way. What are the unexpected objections or the rejections you guys have faced? One by one, maybe Dheeraj, I will like to see your stories.
I mean, I have largely seen rejections or unexpected thing is like, uh, you know, people expect us to expand our wings in other territories also. And because at the end of the day, sometimes, even when I buy certain technology, I feel like, they may do five different things in one platform and my job is easy. I think more from a system integration point of view, less of a product and technology standpoint. That is the problem. But in general, I've seen, like, Rashid mentioned, look at it from this point of view, that we have been prepared from outside in attacks. Same way we have our borders and border security forces and armies and everything. Uh, we need additional set of money to protect from inside our attack as well. You can't replace one with other, because they both are very important. They both are creating different kind of devices. So I see objections likely to, like, people would say, oh, can I replace my legacy technology and use your technology? But the answer is, legacy technology is designed for legacy things. We need new technology also. So the same analogy I would give for outside border attack and the insider attacks, right? So
Cool. Yeah, I think in general, we don't see any pushback. I think most of the practitioners and professionals we talk to tends to agree with the technology, with the sentiment that's out there in the market. Uh, I myself buy products as a head of security. I empathize with them. It's mainly a timing thing, and security teams are usually small, and their job is to enable the business. Primary job is to enable the business. So it's a matter of prioritization and it's a matter of time, right? But in general, we see a large amount of acceptance pretty much back from everyone that this is the technology that has to be, and they want to basically adopt the technology and use it.
Okay, fair enough. And I think it's great talking to all of you and get the stories around. So, quick one moment I will like to have. So, Rashid, if you have heard many stories, many partners, vendors talking about, what is the one buzzword you will like to ban that they should not be? And think about something if they have used that in today as well.
I don't think it has been used today, but I think one buzzword has been moving around since last couple of years is zero trust. Okay. again,
Yeah, finally, I guess we have not used that
Yeah.
today, right? So,
people misunderstand zero trust. It's not a one shot thing. It's a concept. It's not technology. Okay, and it's a concept that need to abide by. So people over leveraging zero trust everywhere. I think it's a missile term that people have over leveraged it.
and what is the one thing you both wish CISO should stop doing?
Yeah, well, I think I would like to add something which Rashid said. I think one thing that needs as an industry for all the vendors out there is that we need to actually tell the things that we actually do, right? So that's important. If we are saying AI native, we have to show the customer that where we are actually using it and how we are using it, right? So there are a lot of buzzwords. Like every time I heard, like when SolarWinds happened, everybody was talking about SolarWinds, right? I mean, as the practitioners, we deal with this every day. We know in and out about the technologies, right? Because we are living those in daily basis, right? So I think one of the things that I think as an industry we should move on is to actually deliver it.
Okay.
Right. That's one thing.
And for you? I think I echo what both of them said. Uh, it is there is a reason why I like the digital native set of customers is because you would find people extremely blunt and honest about the technology that they choose and the job they do have at hand. There is zero layer of sugar coated answers, and you will find they're the biggest teacher for you when it comes to what is that build next, right? Because they come up with the problem which I think more because they are practitioners and leaders both and one part in one box. That's the good part with digital native leaders that I meet. But wherein if I meet only the enterprise and Fortune 100 companies, the leaders will talk 10,000 feet. They understand the industry, they understand the shift, but they may not be the practitioners all the time. There are few exception outliers, but because of they not being a practitioner, sometime when they ask something from a startup, because imagine a startup founder is usually 50 to 100 or 200 employee company, they need to understand how the startup work. Those who understand that get maximum ROI from those products. Those who don't understand and expect the same enterprise behavior from an enterprise, I think they are not able to figure out how to work with startups. It's other way around also. So my request is that if you want to engage with startup, also have to understand a little bit in terms of how to get maximum out of that team, and not just only that this is my problem and this is what I want to solve.
Also, I would want to add what you guys have already said, right? Me being a customer here, right? We have been evaluating multiple solutions from last many years, and one common pattern I've observed is that if there's any vendor watching out, I would say to them, please don't sell your products based out of FUD. Okay, do not create FUD in customers' mind, because eventually you will be losing trust over time, right? So as security practitioners, as security leaders, and vendors in the same space, we need to establish this trust with each other. We cannot drive security within an organization or outside organization based on fear. This whole industry is based on somewhat based on that, but I think we need to move away from it. Okay, because as soon as a vendor comes and tries to sell me FUD, okay, I'm not gonna buy it, right? Because people are now smarter. The customers, especially outside digital native companies or startups, the talent bar is very high, and people really understand what you're talking about, right? So you can't sell fear, right? Sell them what the product does, how it helps you, and will that natural trust and things will move ahead.
Okay.
The famous statement of Game of Thrones, the winter is coming. The storm that we are waiting for is the attacks that are likely to come from the new age AI engines. And if we are not working together, they're actually harming each other. Actually, so vendors and customers have to work together.
They have to work together as a partner. And one thing, because you are talking about attacks which are AI driven, and how the mindset of the cybersecurity practitioners or the buyers, that are they trusting AI driven tools at this point of time? Because when you go, so one of the thing they are still saying that okay, traditional, because as of now they are not understanding, or what is the vibe in the market at this point of time?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people mean different things with AI. So sometime you have a chat interface on your platform, they consider that as an AI. Sometimes they feel that you are helping me in alert prioritization and remediation, that is an AI. But are you using AI in every core of your business and using it safely and securely without sending sensitive out to the large language models? Because there are in-country laws and so you are also so how are you creating the right balance between accuracy, cost, and performance without crossing the boundaries? That is the ultimate question that I've seen, and I've seen people asking those questions. Those who are not completely aware, like it is important for you to know how AI works before you become a CISO or before you become an engineer, because that is now becoming a baseline.
Fair enough. Now, that is for future. But now there is someone already a CISO, and we know there's a data which is coming from AI and going to different AI channels. How Matters will help me?
So we will first of all, the foundation that I will stick around here is a giving you the lens of which is sensitive and which is not sensitive, and B, help you use the existing set of tools that you already have to decide what you want to block and what you don't want to block. Because we are not talking about rip and replacement here. We are talking about how we can coexist by giving additional layer of intelligence and make sure that you're taking informed decisions. Wherever you have done data bypass is allowed because you don't have it in ability to classify things accurately, or you don't have ability to control those things, you kind of bypass those things and you just implemented a tool for the sake of implementing. How can I make those infrastructure more intelligent? uh, like I said, it is an access architecture. You have to use the old and the new both together.
Okay. And how you think this picture gets complete with Upwind? How they will help in this story? And maybe you can add your point as well. And
In my opinion, I feel both. Like I said, it is a bi-directional thing. A, figuring out how the attacker is reaching to the data store. B, when you know this data store is at risk, because this data store is storing sensitive data, how do you protect that with additional guardrail? I think it's both. So inside out and outside in, both way I think Upwind can put it. And runtime is the ultimate thing. If somebody is trying to steal things, you have the ability to block it at that thing. So that's the reason why it is important.
Yeah, I think AI is here to stay. I think as a CISO, as a security practitioner, you have to embrace the tech, and I think it's CISO's job to enable the usage of AI within the organization security. And Matters and Upwind are the tools out there to help you achieve that, right? So it can provide you visibility. It can show you like how things are moving from one place to another place. It can help you in identifying, giving you the big picture, that what are the tech, AI-based tech that's used across your environment, and what is it actually doing, right? So that's a great starting point.
fair enough. And taking the last segment, maybe Rashid, for you specifically, at the end, I just put you directly for my audience and let's say people watching here. What is the one thing you want them to do differently starting Monday? My audience is all yours.
Okay, so as I'll take a stab. I will take a stab on AI. Okay, as Gaurav already said, right? We as security leaders, we have to be enablers. We cannot be blockers within our organizations. So look at the if you're a security leader listening to this, or a security practitioner in your company, the ideal way is to enable AI securely within your org. Okay, because by disabling it or blocking it, you are of course hampering the productivity, and the AI world is moving super fast. Okay, and the productivity gains are immense, right? Now it is your job to understand the AI ecosystem space and understand how well you can secure, right? Be it your AI agents, be it your LLMs, be it the gateways, right? So there has to be security implemented at multiple places. And it's not going to be one shot because AI is a mammoth and it's evolving every single day. So I would say, build guardrails around it. Read about the latest security advancement which are happening in the AI space. I've talked to vendors, research on open source projects. Right? Do whatever it takes, but do not block it directly within your organization. Right? Enable it securely, and also I would say implement AI within your own teams. So we are seeing a massive difference in terms of implementing AI. For example, the mean time to detect for our SOC team and respond, MTDD, MTTR, went up by 78%. Okay, in just one quarter, because all the tri-aging and alerting we have solved L1 and L2s. We're doing autonomously via AI, right? So there's a lot of stuff I think you can leverage via AI. So give it a shot, both from a security point of view and both from improving your own team productivity.
Wow. I think you have, in a nutshell, gave a lot of learnings in last 1 minute, I must say. But yeah, it was wonderful talking to you all, and I learned a lot about AI, the latest runtime security, the data context, and I guess my audience must have been enjoying this show by now. So I thank you everyone for watching it. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye bye.